Welcome learners. Today we are going to talk about the perspectives relating to multidisciplinary education and also how it is going to affect our learning space. For me, I am currently working as director of this institute, which you could see from this visual, and this was one of the first inter-university center to look at the fundamental question that what is the building block of matter. So this is one such center which started exploring the possibilities in nuclear sciences, but later on we realized that this can be used for multi-dimensional aspects, and now the name of this center is changed to Inter-University Accelerator Center. So when I talk about the evolution of Indian higher education, if you go back to the 5th or 6th century, to 5th century AD, there was Takshila, and this Takshila was established in Gandhar, which is now in Pakistan. The Vedas and also the 18 arts, which included skills such as archery, hunting and elephant lore, they were taught in these school of learnings, law schools, medical school and school of military science. The Ayurvedic healer Charak, he studied at Takshila. Arthashastra by Chanakya, Kautilya was also composed at Takshila. It is not me, but you can see it from Wikipedia. The University of Nalanda, which was during the 5th century to 12th century in India, it has the greatest achievement of ancient period in the field of education. It was one of the world's first residential universities, and about 10,000 students, 2,000 teachers, they were on the campus, and the faculty student ratio is unimaginable. It was 1:5. The library was a 9-storied building, and meticulous copies of texts were produced and preserved in this library. Students in those days, they studied science, astronomy, medicine and logic as diligently as they applied themselves to metaphysics, philosophy, Sankhya, Yoga Shastra, the Vedas and the scriptures of Buddhism. Likewise, they also studied the foreign policy philosophy, transcending the ethnic and national boundaries, and because of that, that seat of learning attracted pupils and scholars from Korea, Japan, China, Tibet, Indonesia, Persia, Turkey and other parts of the globe. Nalanda represents the concept of university of the ancient period, and somehow we missed. Very recently, when we started setting up the modern universities, after a large gap of 600 years, when this Nalanda University was destroyed, or you can say after the University of Bologna in Italy in 1088, after 769 years, we started setting up the seat of learnings, the modern universities, Bombay, Calcutta, Madras, and they were all founded in 1857. And then the 4th modern university, University of Allahabad, it was set up in 1887. And I am proud alumnus of this university, which was known as Oxford of the East. These universities, they began as a purely examining bodies, and the territorial jurisdiction extended to large number of territory. And later on, Indian Universities Commission was appointed in 1902, and the Indian Universities Act was passed in 1904. For example, University of Allahabad, it was under central governance, then it became state university, and again it has been reincorporated at central university. When we talk about a good university, so good university means teaching takes place, we teach in a good university, but a great university transforms the entire society, the psyche of a student. Because of that, the good university only produces graduates, whereas the great university produces leaders of all walks of life. So the quality, culture and adaptability should be an attempt to answer to the question of competitiveness in higher education. for which we have started working again, and this new education policy 2020 talks about many such things, and I will be talking only about multidisciplinary education, how we can have multiple entry and exit to the different programs. Before that, why this multidisciplinarity is important, I will let you know that this is called a dawn of knowledge era, in which the science and technology has developed in such a manner that we can see the unparalleled economic growth, because of which there is a globalization, there is a competition, innovation, and also simultaneously you can see uncontrolled exploitation of Earth's resources. This 21st century is the century of knowledge, and the process of transition is not stopped, it's still going on. So whatever we did in 20th century, it was because we had a unprecedented gain in advancing human development, industrial growth, and eradication of poverty in certain regions of the world, and we can attribute all these developments, all these progresses because of technological breakthrough. But I will let you know why this role of science and technology need to be recalibrated at this juncture when we are ushering to the new era. The reason being, the foremost reason is that the progress in science has been, for the most part, insular, monolithic, and unitary. Why it is unitary? Why it is monolithic? Because it has progressed in a exponential rate, and that rate is about 7% per annum. Every 10 to 15 years it doubles, and every half a century you can see a factor of 10 by which it develops. In last 300 years, you can see that it has developed a million times more. And if I compare with the evolution of society, that domain is 10,000 years. So you can always notice there is a phase lag. Science and technology has developed, has evolved at a very faster pace, whereas the societal evolution has remained almost stagnant, but this phase lag has resulted into many anomalies. So when we say that scientific revolution has outpaced the social revolution, not only for a few years but over a century now, because of that you can see many issues which are now bothering you. Maybe it is environment, energy, health, natural hazards, the species are getting extinct, the unsustainability which is in your consumption, and also because all these things you can see that inequalities are growing. The gap between haves, have-nots, those who know, those who don't know, that gap is growing, and there is a divide which did not come into sharper focus soon enough. And because of that, the paradox of our time is that despite the fact that we have spectacularly advanced in science and technology, the economic progress is unprecedented, we have improved in the quality of life, the inequalities which have grown up, because of which the knowledge divide is there, and because of that you can see many of the part of the world is troubled. On the other side, without minding the scarce resources, we have started consuming at a faster rate, because of which the resources are depleting, and the planet, the Earth planet, is at stress. And in very recently, this IPCC that was that recognized the climate change because of anthropogenic activities, and for which Nobel Prize was shared by IPCC and Al Gore, just to highlight that this unsustainability of our activities, which are because of our activities, human activities, the climate change is inevitable, and it is going to bring many catastrophic changes in the society. This is one such example. If you visit any part of the country, you will find the water bodies which are at distress, none of the water bodies, the rivers, they are in the pure state of the form, and because of overconsumption, they have become unsustainable. Many of the cities across the world, even Delhi, that becomes gas chamber. It is difficult to survive in those days when the humidity and also this fume, the gas exhausts keep people bothered. The air quality becomes poorer, and sometimes it also helps many such problems which are due to this. So what we call, these are the effluents of the effluent. What we can do without using the single use of plastics, we are using without knowing how this is going to affect the environmental pollution, how the environment is going to get degraded. And very recently you might have also come to know that there was a foam which was floating when Eastern India people, they wanted to have a festival in Yamuna. So Yamuna was converted in a different, like we used to say it is foam filled with the foam. And many of the rivers, for example, Varanasi is known because there are two rivers, Varuna and Assi. Assi river is almost converted as a nala. So that is another issue which is bothering you, and we have to be mindful. The other important thing is the health and human being, they are affected because of epidemics, because of several terminal diseases, and because of the quality of life. The aging population is on the higher side, but we are not able to sustain their activities, and this is one such area in which we need to worry, and that is many of the species, they are getting extinct. So why this is happening, we need to look at this part, and because of that we have to have the phase lag which is there between societal lag and also societal evolution, and also the technological development need to be minimized to make people understand that we have to work for the sustainability of this earth. Another important dimension which has been added is because of the shrinking time domains. Way back in 1830, when Faraday discovered about the Faraday's law, it took more than 50 years to get it implemented in terms of some kind of technology, electricity. The DNA model which was proposed by Watson Crick, 20 years took for genetic engineering to take forward. Very recently, when carbon nanotube by Ijima came in 1991, within 10 years it got implemented in logic circuits. So what you can notice that in the last 30 years, and if you compare the last 15 years, 5,000 years, the last 30 years are the years which have generated more new information as compared to the previous 5,000 years. So that is another area in which the time domain has shrunk, and you could see the number of different revolutions which took place when mechanical production started, the first industrial revolution, then second industrial revolution, then the third industrial revolution, and now we are at the brink of the fourth industrial revolution, which is based on cyber physical systems. So at the end of 18th century, this industrial revolution 1.0 came. Beginning of the century, this 2.0, 70s, 3.0, today it is 4.0, and the complexity level is increasing. The other important thing is that when we started working with the basic telephone, it took 75 years to reach to 100 million customers, but the games which are coming, the online activities which are going, in 1 month we can reach to 100 million customers. So that is another shrinking the domain, and for this, the changes which are there due to the fourth industrial revolution, we need to have different kind of employability skills. So these skills are necessary to survive in 21st century, because the trouble which is there, the troubled world, because of this knowledge gap, because of the galloping consumption. So the violence and terror, changing skill sets, the employability requirements, lifelong learning necessity, changing the learner profile, be it family structure from joint family to nuclear families to large number of demographic dividend which is due to which gives you the adolescent concerns, and also the growth of knowledge which I have just exemplified, the changed work environment, people have become tech savvy. We have to look at different ways by which we can access information, and also assessment can be done, and that necessitates the changes in our curriculum or pedagogy. We are also requiring different kind of thinking skills. It was not only rote learning which was predominantly utilized by the learners. We have to experiment, we have to compare, we have to invent, we have to go for critiquing, we have to go for interrogating, we have to go for judging. So these are some of the higher order thinking skills which need to be worked out, and you could see the earlier pedagogy heavily relied on the lower level of competencies, that was remembering, understanding, applying. So they were the lowest level of competencies. But in coming days, when we talk about the new higher thinking skills, we need to know about how we can analyze, how we can evaluate, how we can create. Creativity should be there, and because of that, we need to change in the assessment forms. And for that, the focus in the new age science is not only addressing human needs and concerns, but also there are many opportunities which are described in form of UN Millennium Development Goals, for example, hunger, health, education, environment, that are linked with the global change research programs, that is climate change, energy issues. So the education system should be geared up to take the challenges so that this Millennium Development Goals can be attained. If you talk about human rights is composed of 5 such rights: civil rights, political rights, economic rights, social rights, cultural rights. The upper half, civil rights and political rights, are guaranteed to some extent, but the 3 other rights, which are the lower side which in this viewgram, economic rights, social rights and cultural rights, they are neglected half of the human rights. And to work with the human rights fully, we need to recognize these rights, and for that we have to deal with the sphere of human beings working, their producing, their servicing, how we are going to improve their standard of living, the quality of life, not for one person but all the persons, and also how we can deal with the cultural rights in terms of cultural sphere of life, including ethnic culture, subcultures, arts and science. So these neglected half of human rights, they are again depicted in unfinished MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, which can be classified as social, economic and environmental. You can have this no poverty, these are the 17 millennium goals, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation. If it is economic SDGs, then affordable and clean energy, recent work and economic growth, industry, innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequalities, sustainable cities and communities, and sustainable consumption and production. Environment SDGs are also important, very much important. They are climate action, life below water, life on land, whereas 16th and 17th goals are the means of implementation of these SDGs. Now the question arises, what can science do? In the 21st century, we have to have a more inclusive view of science. It should not be insular, it should not be monolithic, it should not be unitary. And the conception that science is autonomous is now considered as unsustainable. So if we do not remove the phase lag between societal evolution and also the technology development, we are going to be faced with the several sustainability issues. So the new role of science talks about innovation by talking to other streams of knowledges with the science, keeping view the sustainable development part, for which we have to innovate, and for innovation we require higher thinking skills, which was missing in our sets of skill when we were simply focusing on remembering, understanding and applying some of the things. Now the science needs to shed its splendid isolation, and for that the societal engagement is required with the science. The policy linkage should be there, for which again innovation is required. So we need to have a synergy between scientific and societal progress, and that helps both science as well as society. Why? In science we get values, different methods to deal with, and different products which are sustainable. On the other side, unless otherwise society accepts the developments of the science and technology, it is equitably distributed, and also it also keeps in mind that unless otherwise it is sustainable, we are not going to use those products, or we have to minimize the uses. Then both science and society cohabit with each other, and because of that the science becomes responsible, transparent, and understand the full implications of new discoveries in the context of moral and ethical values and sustainability of our planet, whereas society sheds its cynicism and skepticism about science and recognizes its centrality for human good. So that means the compartmentalization of our education system, in which those who used to study only science, or even in the sciences the branches were divided into biological science, life sciences, or mathematical science, or physical sciences, they were not talking to each other. And the problem, or the real problem, the solution of these real problems lie at the interface of many disciplines. It is not limited to only one discipline, for which we need to train a particular segment of the society or the student by simply giving some knowledge about the know-how, or giving the technical know-how to understand the technique and apply the technique for just for the sake of applying the technique. Instead, we should have good appreciation that where several such techniques will be required, by which we can actually solve the real problem and find out the problem which are needed for the sustainable development of our country. Another important thing is that if you look at the pass percentage and also the learning outcome, if you are good at understanding, the chances of failure will be minimum. If you don't understand, definitely the student is going to fail the examination. On the other side, this quadrant also gives you a kind of feeling that if you know better, if you have a good understanding, you will pass the examination. So on top, both the things are same. Like if you understand better, the chances of failure will be minimum, and chances of passing will also be reasonably good. But why I am concerned about the fourth quadrant, and that is I am being modest, that poor understanding is there, but the people are passing the examination, and that number is not less number. That is also a sizable number of people who, without understanding, they write the examination and they get the pass certificate. So that is a matter of concern for all of us, and unless otherwise we ensure that the student has understood or the learning outcomes are achieved, this will be a simple example of getting some kind of certificate without knowing much. To handle those issues which I have just summarized, the new education policy has come forward with a new vision, and that vision is nothing other than the Takshila, the Nalanda vision. When we had all these things, that this policy is talking about holistic education, the futuristic education, the flexibility in our system that gives you value-based quality higher education, promoting access, equity, affordability, accountability, and also on top of that quality. Everything is required for developing good, thoughtful, well-rounded and creative individuals by enabling them to develop their character, ethical and constitutional values, intellectual curiosity, scientific temper, creativity, and spirit of service. So, if these are the attributes which are there, then only we can think that our education system has resulted into a student who is a good human being and can be considered as global citizen. So the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is only possible if we have well-rounded individuals who are trained for their values, for their all-round development, with having all kind of intellectual curiosity, and that is what is needed out of this system.